Hello and welcome to tonight's Get in Tune. I'm Michael Gracia and I have a great show planned. I'm sorry, I'm getting used to where to look right now. But yeah, I'm looking forward to tonight's show. Got a returning guest I really enjoy chatting with. But before that, just remember you can go to Amazon and type in the Whimsical Whiz and get the complete 2023 collection as I work on the complete 2024 collection right now. You can also on Amazon or go to Bold Venture Press and look up Zorro's Exploits or Zorro's Swordplate and Romance and get a couple of Zorro books I worked on. And as always, please go to akidinacomic.com where the Wiz appears in the newspaper there, and a lot of great you know comic artists. It's a complete comic newspaper, and it's fantastic. So yeah, check it out. And let's bring on our guest. He is a fantastic creator, and I'm excited for his new Kickstarter going on, which we will be talking about. And I'll be putting a link in the comments soon. And, you know, well, let's bring him on. James Burton. Hey, man,
Hello, everybody.
how you doing?
It's been a heck of a day, a heck of a week, and a heck of a roller coaster ride for a little bit. It is raining cats and dogs outside, and
Oh, wow.
had to go all over the place today.
Is it
So,
you're out in California, right?
yep, I am in Northern California in a little town, well, not as little as it used to be, called Lincoln, California, which is outside of Sacramento.
Okay. Cool. And yeah, no, we've had some warm weather over by me here for a change, and it's very hot in where I'm at right now in my studio space.
Yeah, everybody's blowing hot and cold right now, dude.
Yeah, it's been. I like when it's cold. It's been nice days out. I just haven't really been able to go out to enjoy them. Uh,
I, I get that, but I'm grateful to see the warm weather so I can get back on my bike. Riding, look, I'm a sissy. When it's cold outside and I'm riding on my motorcycle, it sucks. I don't enjoy it as much. I'm not gonna lie,
yeah.
because I don't have a big windshield and all the other crazy stuff. I have like a little stripped down Sportster. So
Yeah. I enjoy looking at motorcycles. I'll never get on one though. I haven't.
well, I kind of got raised in that environment. My dad sold a lot of meth to the Angels, and while he wasn't a club member, he pretty much like sold meth to everybody in Sacramento, and that lifestyle is very much a part of my upbringing. It's kind of like a cross between Sons of Anarchy and Breaking Bad.
Well, I'm really hoping it's just the motorcycles that's part of your lifestyle there, not the
Yeah,
other stuff.
no,
Yeah,
absolutely.
you see, for me, I have a very vivid image from my childhood. I was in Long Island. We were visiting my mom's aunt, and her cousin was studying to be a doctor, and there was a motorcycle accident, and they ran to the house to get him to
Yeah,
before the ambulance. And me and my sister kind of like ran and followed him, and we kind of saw a motorcycle accident. That kind of stuck in my head that I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I don't want to get on one. And
I get that. I don't have a problem with anybody who looks at it that way because a lot of my friends and family do. But here's the thing: when you're the kind of person that gets in your head and you either live in the future, which means you worry constantly, or you live in the past, which means you're filled with a lot of regret about either your choices or things that have happened. I that's kind of where my brain is both times. There's only a handful of things that make me present. One of them is the art that I do, the comics, the writing of it, the drawing of it. It keeps my head in what I'm doing. One of the other few things is being on the bike, and there's only like three or four things that actually do that for me. So it's more of like I'm not dumb enough to do the things my dad did on his bike.
mm,
I'm not him. Like, which took me a long time to be able to say that. Um, uh, I get what you're talking about, where you're like, I hope I don't bring any of those things into my life. And I don't. I'm as polar freaking opposite when it comes to that crap.
Yeah.
I've never tasted alcohol. I've never had a narcotic outside
Mm.
of, being in the hospital or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, those things, I hate them. I hate them all. But being on the bike is something that since I was a toddler, I mean, he literally bungee corded me to the back of his chopper. I mean, I'm like two to make sure I didn't fall off.
Yeah.
And things like that. I'd go on these rides with him, and it was one of the times when I didn't have to worry about all the garbage. Uh,
Yeah. No, I get that. It's like a meditative state for you
oh, very
going into like,
much.
yeah, yeah. No, I get, and I know people who actually ride that it's like that for them.
Mhm.
And you know, but like I mentioned, I saw that. I also grew up with some health issues, and being in and out of hospitals is why I never done drugs. I've never drunk,
Yeah.
I or drank, I should say. I've never had alcohol, so it's things like that like kind of stick out to me. But drawing and creating comics is that for me. I don't need, I mean, listen, each their own. If I was into bike, into motorcycles, I'd totally probably be the same way. But for me, it really is the art, and it's escaping into um different worlds, whether
Oh,
it's on
100%.
television, in comic books, and that's my thing.
Absolutely. I totally understand that 100% because that is what I do 90% of my time. If I didn't have a wife and kids to pull me out of my own head, I'd never leave it.
Yeah.
Um, but there are only a handful of ways where I get into that state. So as a result, I'm always hunting for whatever they are. One of the other ones is is fighting. So and that's one of the reasons I practice martial arts, is to do the sparring and stuff like that. It's things that keep your mind in the present.
Yeah.
We're just not made to only focus on the future or only focus on the past.
Yeah.
When you're brought up a certain way and you don't know how to cope with those feelings very well, you got to find one way or another. And like in my dad's case, it was self medication. My
Yeah.
mom's case, it was self medication, and they destroyed themselves.
Hmm.
Um, and speaking of going into other worlds and the rest of those other things, that's been something I've been doing since I don't remember a time, from 4 years old on, when that
Hmm.
wasn't something I was trying to constantly do. Whether
Yeah.
it was writing stories about superheroes, writing Damage Inc., playing role playing games with my friends for the last 30 years, or doing what I'm doing now, which is the Ballad of Nod.
Yeah. Now, let me just ask you, since you just brought up you do martial arts, what do you study? Is it like a mixed martial art, or is it an actual martial art form that you
When I
study?
was a kid, I studied at a Taekwondo dojo,
Hmm.
which that really depends on who you're practicing with more than anything, because some of those places are just calisthenics in a belt factory. Um, in my case, we had a mix of teachers. Some of them, that's exactly what they were, and some of them, no, they were really teaching you how to fight just with high kicks and the crap. I'm not built that way. So I had a certain amount of success in it. I enjoyed it. I was there with my friends. I beat up black belts. I had my fun. But I wasn't made. I can't kick above my head repeatedly. I'm not made that way. It's just not.
Yeah.
So I always felt like something was wrong. Like this feels way harder than it's supposed to.
Hmm.
Later on, I started learning from someone else. His name is Lon Byer. He's a really good friend of my family, and he teaches here in Lincoln. And from him, I learned Wing Chun. He knows, like, oh dear God, his family has its own, like, Shaolin style, and he knows
Wow.
all these different Chinese martial arts. He's also like a second degree Taekwondo black belt, and he's studied in China, all kinds of different stuff. But the one that he teaches me and that I've focused on the most is Wing Chun, which is
Okay.
tons of
Yeah.
angling and tons of hand blocking, and it's what he calls sticky hands,
Hmm.
reaction training, stuff like that. It's what's comfortable. That's one of the things that
Yeah.
he teaches, is that you find the style that's comfortable to you,
Hmm.
and you don't necessarily copy every other style or learn every other style. You try to stick to the ones that work the best for you and your body.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The reason I asked is because I used to study martial arts, and I busted my knee at 21, and it was over for me.
I've busted a few things, including that.
It's just something I was never able to go back into. But I took kung fu when I was a little kid, and then I went into taekwondo later on, and I studied that probably the most. And I had to, because I didn't do well in school, I had to leave like 2 months before my black belt test, but I was technically a black belt. I was training with them for years, and, because I was the tallest in the class and the biggest guy, so they didn't want me knocking down, the younger kids or the smaller, so they had me training with the old. So I was training with black belts when I was like a yellow belt. And
that's kind of what happened to me. We had my buddies' brothers were all in there as well, and then my friends. I watched everybody become black belt, but I could never afford the test, so I couldn't get above a certain level because I didn't have the money for it. But I'd spar with all the black belts, and so you learn in different ways, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The belts are supposed to be there to keep your pants up anyway.
Exactly. But I had a great time. I loved it, and even after I left, I practiced it every day. And in college, my friends and I, we would do this thing where we throw a little hacky sack at each other and call out some kind of move. Everyone knew different stuff. We taught each other different things. And I did a basic roundhouse kick, and my knee snapped, and I had to have my kneecap repositioned. It fell out of place, and it came to because of I'm on. Due to I've had 2 kidney transplants, but due to my first one, they didn't tell me that a certain med was going to weaken my bones.
Ouch.
And when I should have been taking supplements to strengthen my bones, and when I did the kick, it snaps. It's over for me, and I haven't been able to
drink the milk, man.
Yeah, well, I haven't been able to like even just keep a basic horse stance for more than a few minutes, and now it's impossible for me. But I miss studying. It was, it's one of my all-time like favorite things in the world. I just love watching it too. So that's why I was asking about that. I'm very into that stuff. I had a friend who taught me some Kempo that was very nice, and I think that goes very nicely with Taekwondo.
Yeah, Kenpo is a good pair because it teaches you a lot of angling with your hands,
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that is absolutely missing from Taekwondo. It's like completely gone.
Yeah. It's the art of kicking and punching. You're basically just throwing kicks and then coming down with a punch. Yeah. That's kind of what it was, at least for me. And but yeah, I loved it. Some of the and that's and lately I've been drawing a lot more and more like martial arts style characters, and going through a lot of like ninja and samurai stories. And
oh, my son is addicted to Stan Sakai right now. He has hunted down every Usagi book he can get a hold of. He's got like a 3-foot library in his bedroom.
That is fantastic.
Where he's like mowed lawns and stuff to get the money to get all these books. And he knows tons about Usagi and the turtles. It's one of his passions.
Yeah.
And I've encouraged it. I enjoy all that stuff too, especially when it's done right. Because when it's done wrong, it's kind of ridiculous and silly. Yeah. But Usagi's not. Usagi's like hardcore, really paid attention to the culture and the history. And I mean, Stan Sakai's literally a historian with all the studying he's done to make that book, and it's still one of the best things that I've gotten my son into, and I love reading them as well. So I know what you mean. It was one of the first things I used to draw too.
Yeah, I tend to go back. I have what are they called then? Is it the omnibus?
Yeah, that's what he's got.
Yeah, I got the first 3 back here. And,
he managed to get all 7 in one summer.
Oh wow, that is great. I got them when a local comic shop was going out of business by me. I felt bad, but I'm like, I can't pass up the deal. I was getting them for like $20 a piece, and you know. But yeah, no, I haven't finished all three yet, but I go through them. I pick them up. I'll read like a book, like you know one one story, and then wait a little bit, then go back to the next, read the next
Yeah,
one.
it's one of the things I love about Stan Sakai is the way he tells his stories, is that
Mm,
you're reading it thinking it's a one shot story, and then
yeah,
you read the next one and you still think it's a one shot story, and then you get like six of them in, and then the other characters from the first part come back, and it's he puts them. It feels more like a really well done gaming session where the GM didn't forget the NPCs
yeah,
and made the world respond to the characters.
mm,
I really like the way he does that without saying, "Here's an event and the story is 14 issues long." He doesn't do that. He
yeah,
writes the individual stories and then considers that the world is going to respond to the actions of the main character,
yeah.
which is awesome and, in my opinion, the right way to do it.
There was a Facebook post by someone recently. I forgot who posted it, and they asked, "How do you like your stories? Do you prefer long format, or do you prefer like one shot, like episodic types?" And I remember commenting, I like how Stan does it. I like these kind of like one shot stories that connect and form a much larger story. That's how I like to get my stories. In
It does. I think it's the lost art form for a lot of us that don't get to do it as constantly. Like with me, I would
Mhm.
love to do this every day, all day. I don't. I have a regular
Exactly.
job. I'm a
Mm.
father and a husband, and I have other things I have to do and be besides just a creator.
Yeah.
However, when you get into like the mainstream books, I don't know, dude. I don't really enjoy the events at all anymore. They just seem like money grab after money grab. They don't feel
Yeah.
like they don't feel like they're all pieces of the same puzzle. They don't. I don't know.
I,
When it
I'm,
comes to that, the mainstream books have like lost my attention. Other
yeah.
than the odd moment, like I still pick up a Ghost Rider here or there because he's my favorite.
Mhm.
My son's collecting turtles, so he and I will go through the turtles. Like he just finished Last Ronin. I know he's a little late, but he just finished Last Ronin. So I
Mhm.
try to make sure I'm reading stuff with him and enjoying it with him, so he gets someone to talk to about it. Um, there are ones that are done much better than others, and you can tell when somebody's heart is in it. I
Yeah.
picked up a set of books for my daughter at the local shop here in Roseville, which is called A1 Comics,
Yeah.
and I picked it up because she really wanted to read Spider Gwen. Okay,
Okay.
there were no backgrounds for like the first 10 pages, none.
Wow.
There was a couple lines, meaning they were in a hallway. And look, here's the deal. I know that Western comics want to be as profitable and as popular as what's going on with manga, because manga is
Mhm.
expanding, Western comics are contracting, and I get that. Um, However, when manga has different backgrounds missing and things like that, it's because they're pumping out a rather large number of pages in a very quick amount of time.
Mhm.
When you get a 20-page book that is half-ass colored by a digital colorist okay, who did their basics, there's
Mhm.
barely any lighting, there's no backgrounds on anything, and it's just in a grid format with almost no creativity or effort. That is not the best you can do. It's not.
Yeah.
And if you're working on a main title like that, it means that you're being told to do it. It means you're told to be doing it quick, because quick is more important than good.
Yeah.
And I picked up the books that she asked me to get her, and I put them right back down. And I'm not gonna waste my money on something I don't think anybody can connect with.
Yeah.
I'd rather see stuff like Sam Keith, or um, I'd rather. These books are all going to date me. Like the Ghostbusters run in IDW, that thing was freaking amazing.
That was good.
The the stuff they're doing with the turtles with Freddie Williamson, or the Kookaburra, the stuff that's being pumped out from Raid Studios, or um, oh gosh, the Tales of Sand that Ramon Perez just did, and one just did. That was like 4 years ago. But I want something with somebody's heart that's in it. That's one of the reasons
Yeah.
why I'm finding myself more and more on Kickstarter and less in the comic shop.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons.
I spend most of my time, well, I don't want to say most of my time, but when I'm looking for books, I'm on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, any crowdfunding site these days, um, because of the exact reason. Well, number one, I don't really have a comic shop near me anymore. I have one, but they don't carry what I normally would read.
Gotcha.
So I'd have to have everything special ordered, and I don't get to the place as often as I'd like to. That I feel special ordering for me would be worth it. I feel like I'd be hurt, when you come in to pick up your stuff and stuff like that. So, um,
Yeah, and I will say that if you connect with a shop
mhm,
that does understand your interests and is a part of it, like for example, there's a shop that used to be in Rockland, the town right next to me. His name's Ken's Comics. He's now in Florida. Okay,
okay,
Ken's great, and he has similar tastes in me. Like he has, I'll go over there, and behind the desk, he'll have all these indie issues. Like, oh look, there's a signed copy of Poison Elves. There's some stuff from Kitchen Sink over here that I've never seen
mm,
before.
yeah,
Here's copies of Johnny from the original print run, which I haven't seen since I was like 12.
yeah,
And he'll have stuff like that, and we get to talking about it, and he finds new stuff that's in that vein and makes sure he shows it to me. And so I get more excited about it. Some comic shops are like that. Like that's one of the good parts about um, finding a place that is your home shop. It's because you can interact with them and know that you're among fans.
yeah,
That is one of the things that's missing from really big projects.
yeah,
When I mean, our projects like all the way up to like the Hollywood, for example, like everybody's Marvel doesn't really connect with people the way that it was because it's not quite as flashy. They got different actors going. They're having trouble getting other characters started. All these arguments and all these rumors and who's running DC and all this other garbage. I just
yeah,
want
yeah, yeah,
fans to be able to make their stuff again. Like using these beautiful stories that have been written and are a huge part of things in the past. That is a proof of concept, and a lot of that is ignored for the ego of the people working on the current stuff. Like
yeah,
the Green Lanterns trailer, two guys walking down a road. If they're going to try to do street stuff with Green Lantern, then why didn't they pull from the old Green Lantern and Green Arrow stories when they were running together in their own series? And why don't they credit the creator for, oh, that's right, that their contract doesn't cover that. They'd have to pay the guy. Oh, son of a bitch! What am I?
yeah. I know. Listen, I'm a huge Green Lantern fan. For years, I collected everything Green Lantern, throughout the '90s. Because I started collecting in '89, and I stopped regularly collecting. I'd say around, I got married in 2008, so a little bit before then because I was saving for the wedding and stuff. Um, so probably around 2006. So basically 89 to 2006, I was a regular collector, and I've been and Green Lantern was one of the regular books I bought. Um, I was a big Hal Jordan fan. I loved, but I was a big Alan Scott fan. Like I love all that stuff. I actually got to meet, is it Martin? Martin Odell, who co-created Green Lantern.
Sweet.
Um, yeah, he was really a nice guy. His son was cool too. Um, and then, but I was a huge Gil Kane fan. And
Mm.
Gil Kane did Green Lantern, when Hal started in the 60s. So, like, when I discovered Gil's work, I was trying to find older Green Lantern stuff to collect. I loved Green Lantern. I even enjoyed Hal when he got the white hair, when he went through the whole parallax thing, and um, you know, who knows if that's what they're going to do. So I don't mind that they got little white sideburns for the guy.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me.
It does, it's just it doesn't look like Green Lantern to me, and
That's the problem. When a
I
fan
want
doesn't like
sci-fi.
it.
Like
Yeah.
when I look at Marvel, my favorite Marvel character is Quasar. You never see him get used properly, and then I'm like a Nova fan. Like I like the whole sci-fi of the characters, but you never get to see them used the way they should
Yeah,
be.
and then they end up in teen books in other
Yep.
places that aren't sci-fi, and it doesn't feel the same.
Yeah, exactly.
I get what you're saying. Like I remember reading those books or reading things like oh gosh, what was that? My favorite one is Ghost Rider, and
Mhm.
they've tried to do the Ghost Rider movies. There are good parts and bad parts about it. I know
Yeah,
visually he's an expensive character to have on screen. I get that part,
yeah, yeah,
but the Ghost Rider stories, they were monster of the week stories, dude.
yeah.
One week it was a werewolf hospital. The next week it was chasing a demon through a bar. The next week it'd be, you know, vampire truck drivers or whatever it was, right?
Hmm.
And not until they did like the Lilith and Vengeance storylines did he have really long ones. So when you ask what
Yeah,
kind of books I want, I want like kind of what Stan did. I want, like you said, give me the books that have different things going on to keep my attention and let them link up because you have the same writer for more than 3 issues.
yeah, yeah.
And leave the team alone. Let them make it.
I mean, think about Claremont doing the X-Men books. He
Right.
did that from what, the late '70s, early '80s, whenever he started, up until Jim Lee took over and said, "Yeah, I'm writing and drawing." They,
But they'll never do it again.
yeah,
The Marvel and DC have said repeatedly, we're never going to build a dream team of writers and of artists again. They don't want to. If somebody gets so badass that they can do things like I'm going to write X-Men now because you need me, the
yeah,
way Jim Lee did and the way McFarlane did and all
mhm,
that, they have too much control. Those guys left and screwed Marvel for like a decade. It, it, they don't want to be put back in that position again.
yeah,
Everything is about risk mitigation and the management of investment instead of truly about creating good storytelling. And that's a long term problem. Short term fix, yeah. Long term problem. And I prefer the indies where it's really about the love for what we do. Okay, like I know you're switching your stories up. I've read your stuff, and you're switching some stuff up because you have your own creative desires to go so many directions. You
mhm,
can't do that when you have to draw house style. It's
yeah.
fine. You must
Yeah.
draw. So I prefer to do what I'm doing as well, and I
Yeah.
get that part.
Which, we've been already talking like a half hour. We haven't even touched upon about what you really do. You know,
Yeah,
so why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do as a creator, as an artist, and then we'll talk about your comic that you're working on right now and your Kickstarter.
gotcha. Um, as a creator and as an artist, I prefer to be a storytelling artist. I write and I draw, and
Yeah.
it's been that way in my personal life since I was a kid. And I've worked with writers from here and there, and I don't mind doing it. But I have my own stories. I want to tell them. I'm doing it because I want to. I'm doing it because I need to, and I love the fact that I get to do it. I've got multiple successful Kickstarters. They're all small. I'm not gigantic. I don't have one of those crazy $1 million campaigns or anything like that. But I've been telling stories that involve my family and friends in one way or another. Like Damage Inc. is what I've been doing for quite a while. And it's about bounty hunters that hunt down monsters and stuff. And all the good guys in those books are based on their friends who played role playing games with me for 30 years. And each one of them is a different type of monster fighter.
Yeah.
The stuff I'm doing now is a little bit different than that. It's not a comedy adventure. It's not filled with mom jokes and gun violence. Even though I
Yeah.
love doing that, it's a little bit more personal.
Yeah. Yeah. And the new book you're doing is called The Ballad of Nod,
Yep,
right?
the Ballad of Nod. Yeah,
And can you tell us? I'm going to pull up the sample that you sent me. If you
awesome. Let's do
could,
that.
window. Here it is. And can you? Let me just
Okay.
move it to another screen here so I could
Move
kind of
away, bro.
control it and actually still see you. You know, when okay, I'm just fixing this here. So,
Always learning to get used to the software.
well, yeah, I'm like I said, I don't know if I said in the beginning of this, but I'm on Restream now. I know I wrote you and told you about this. StreamYard went a
That's
little
all
too
good. I'm not.
expensive, and
Oh yeah.
I'm I'm looking for the thing. I haven't paid for it yet, which is why today I'm only on YouTube and what do you call it, Twitch. But if I decide this is what I'm going to go for and pay for, I'll be able to move to other platforms, and I'll be back on Facebook. Um,
Well, hopefully you enjoy it.
it's
Okay.
a pretty good service. I've been doing the live streams, testing it out live stream wise, drawing, and it's been pretty decent. And I'll be doing another one this weekend, you guys, to talk about my next where I'm at on the comic I'm making. So pencils start Sunday, so I have to have the layouts done by Saturday, which they will be done.
Gotcha. So this is the Ballad of Nod, and what we've got here is my cover. This is the original cover. The Ballad of Nod is a story about a young girl who is grieving the loss of her father. He's died from cancer. She had to watch him get sick. She had to lose him. And how she feels about that, her grief, is bringing nightmares from the dream world into her world. And there's only one thing stopping them from getting to her, which is her teddy bear, Patches. Patches is a little beat up teddy bear who's been around her forever, and he's basically fighting them off with his fists. And one night, the biggest, baddest nightmare of them all comes for her, and he stands up to him and gets drugged right into the dream world. Now she has to decide if she is going to go in and try to save her friend or stay where she's warm and cozy. This is going to be the first issue of 6. My co-writer is my sister Kira. She is a poet, and she and I work on different projects together. I also illustrate her books. Um, but this one is really personal to me. And the reason why is because I am a stage 4 cancer survivor. That is part of my story. And in 2007, I got diagnosed and survived it. But literally, my daughter was born like a couple weeks before I got diagnosed. I didn't even get to see her for months, and like until I think July. So she was like 5 or 6 months old by the time she even got to like let me hold her. Um, which was hard, but it got so much worse after that. Um, Over the course of the next year, I lost my mom, I lost a grandfather, I lost another grandfather,
Wow.
and then I finally lost my father. And me, like most people, my father is my hero. Even though I talk smack about him being a meth cook and all the rest of that, you don't know that growing up when parents are making decisions that they're flawed in certain ways. And by the time you come to an understanding of all those things, that's around the time where things happen and you lose them.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of grief and a lot of trauma from going through all that. I didn't know how to explain this to my toddler child. She grew up watching all this and she doesn't understand what's going on. She doesn't know why her parents are sad or why her dad is crying while reading Pooh Bear to her or whatever it is, right? So one day I was watching a Jim Henson documentary where he was talking about the power of storytelling. And it dawned on me that I was a storyteller. And so I started telling her these bedtime stories to explain who her grandfather was to her, about his childhood, which led to telling her stories about my childhood. And that led into me making stories about her childhood. So Patches is actually a real bear. the story about her finding him or him being found in this little shop in a hospital, all that is actually real. What happened, and this little bear has been her companion since she was about 2.5 years old. And so I made a story, and it became a bedtime story. And then later on, it became really important to me to tell the rest of it, which is her deciding she has enough courage to go face her nightmares on their terms and get her bear back. So she is going to go through all of this. She's going to have to face that grief. She's going to have to face those big bads. And she's also going to get to see the wonder that the dream world has to offer.
Yeah, no, it's sounds like a great story, and that I like that it's personal. Those are usually the best stories, um, because it means so much to you. You're going to put all of you inside it.
Yeah. I The first book's completely finished. The second book, I think I'm about 50% done with it as far as our work goes. I've got the scripts written for the first four. But when I was done with the first one, something just felt like it was missing.
Mm-hmm.
And we took a trip up to Seattle. And unfortunately, I had all my drawing gear with me and my tablet and all this, and it all got stolen. I work digitally now.
Wow.
Due to lack of space. And
Yeah.
I had some of the work on backup drives, not all of it. So I had to cobble certain things together. But when I was fixing and repairing what I'd lost, I kind of realized that there wasn't really that what was missing is I missed like these little personal touches. I sat down with Kira, and she helped me restructure certain scenes, like showing Patches reading a story. That's actually something Kira kind of insisted on, is to show what Patches does before the nightmares get there. And it kind of grew from there. I started showing a little bit more things about, like the father and the daughter talking, and the kind of memories that she has of her dad, and things like that. And I tried to make sure they were personal. They were the things that I would say to my daughter Camille. This is not her in the story. I mean, obviously I'm alive. This is a character named Faye, but it is based on her, just like Patches is based on her bear. And I wanted to make sure that the voices in this were real, that they were the kinds of things a father says to his daughter, those kinds of things that the daughter would ask her father. And so we went through the dialogue, and we had to restructure some things. But I feel really strong about this. And when I got the second version of it to my pre-readers, I got back some really good feedback. A lot of things of, I hate you, you bastard. Why did you give this to me without the next piece? I've been crying for the past 45 minutes. Why did you do that to me? It was another one. I believe it was, fuck you. I hate you so much. I'm so jealous that you came up with this before me. That was one of them. It's just different reactions. And I got really strong ones like those. Those are examples of very strong reactions. They connected to it. Some of them it's because they lost their own parents. Some of them it's because they lost a kid. There's a mix of it. And the point isn't to get the same reaction. The point is to get a reaction. The point is to have enough emotional content to be a part of the reader's life. The readers are what make us good storytellers. It's not us. It's the reader. It's connecting with the reader feeling what we're trying to say, the reader deciding that what we did was good.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of writers chase epic. I've written the story. It's amazing. It's going to be a privilege to draw it. Oh my God, if I hear that at a con one more time. That's not how epic works.
Yeah.
Like Tolkien did not write his book to be epic. And most writers who write their book to be epic don't connect with the reader, because it's the reader who decides when we are epic or not.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Hold on one second.
Oh, take your time.
Oh, sorry about that. Like I mentioned, it's very warm in the studio here and kind of dry and stuff. But Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You know, I taught storytelling, a class called visual storytelling at one college specifically for 16 years, but I taught storytelling for 20. And, you know, I used to talk about epic storytelling in the class. I never connected it at that time the way you just said it, as the readers decide really if you're epic or not. But um, you know, one of the things I always tried to get across to my students was, you know, it's about, and I don't know how to say this without sounding a little corny. It's about good storytelling is to keep it
Yeah.
simple and you build upon there. I had so many people that were like, I'm still world building. I'm still world building. Well, if you're going to constantly world build, you'll never work on something. I remember I have a story. I never drew it. I'll be honest. I don't know if I ever will. Okay. Um, I started the idea in high school and I wrote it as a as a script for a screenwriting class I took in college. And it, you know, it exploded these, like, I think 5 or 6 books was the idea, to have like 5 or 6 books, maybe anywhere from 100 to 200 pages each book.
Okay.
And I plotted out the first story. I plotted out a few of the books, but I'm saying I did some roughing out on the first book, and it came
Right.
out to about 100 and, I think at the time, 110, 120 pages, something like that. And I showed it to people, and it was really, really, like, I was getting kind of the same feedback you were getting, like, oh, this is really good. Why didn't I think of this before? You know, like all this stuff. Um, and then I said, I don't want to draw 110 pages, and like, this is going to take me forever to do. And then I'm like, am I stupid? I got 5 books of these here, 5 or 6 books to tell the story. And I was just recently re-looking at it about last year. This is one of the reasons I gave up the whip. I think I might be ready very soon to draw the first book. You
Yeah,
know?
there's nothing wrong with having to be ready for the story either.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the idea for this book was in my head as I was going through those things with Camille back in 2009 and
Mhm.
2010. I wasn't ready to draw it either emotionally, or I don't think I could do it justice. And now I feel that I'm ready, and I've done everything I can for it. The backstart, or the part of the Kickstarter, has little vignettes. It has interview stories with myself and Ryan, who did the alternate cover. It has stories about me and the editor, and stories about me and my sister, and stories about me and Camille. And I've tried to make sure everybody understands that yes, it is personal, and yes, it is a part of a lot of things, but it's also really well done. It's 32 pages. Now it's got a mix of both color and gray tone.
You gave
I
me the
am
full book here. I
colorblind.
don't want to give this away. I'm sorry. I was
Yeah,
just looking.
yeah, I did
This is the
send you
full
the
book.
whole book.
I'm going to stop right here on this page. If this is page 12, this is a good half, or 13, whatever. It's a good halfway mark. All
Sure.
right. I'm sorry. Continue with what you were saying.
Oh, I'm just describing what's inside of the book. So
Yeah,
right now it's 32 pages for the first one. It is a color book, but I've been really selective with the way the color works. She's
yeah,
depressed. She's filled with grief. The world to her doesn't feel like it's filled with color, so it's not. Um, and that changes when she gets to Nod. There's going to be more color. I struggle with color because I am colorblind. I
yeah.
actually have to have Camille come in sometimes and check what I'm doing, and then I get lectured. Why is that person's hair green? It's not green. It's
Listen,
brown. No, Dad, that's green.
I get the same thing. I'm colorblind as well. I bring my wife in. She's like, "What are you looking for? That's not brown. That's more of a red." And she's like, "I'm like, well, think about this." Well, then you gotta go. Let me see the palette. She's like, "Point here. Go up to a little darker." And first of all,
Yeah.
it drives me nuts. And it was one of the reasons that made me decide. I'm like, I'm giving up on color this year. I'm going all like I have some New Year's resolutions. One of them was to step away from the screen because I spend too much time on it between my day job and other stuff. I said I'm going to start drawing traditionally again. So I will do lettering and maybe some touch ups and stuff digitally, but I'm going back to draw traditionally. That was one of them. The other thing what I said was I'm giving up color except on covers. Everything will from now on be grayscale if I decide to do toning or whatnot, or I'm just going to be shading through like hatching and spot blacks. I'm going old school.
And I get that. Everything that I do usually ends up as a gray tone because I think the work itself is more visceral.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, I use color to make certain points, and in the rest of the story, there will be more color. But I always do the gray tones and all the rest of that first. The color comes in afterwards. That's just my process.
Yeah.
But like I said, the book itself is got it's going to be a large book. It's going to be at 32 pages, and I don't plan on changing that very much for the rest of them.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to try to make sure that my goal is to have 3 books out by next December. This is the first one. It may end up being 2 just because the timing of the first quarter of this year has had
Mm-hmm.
so many insane problems, and who knows how it's going to go for the rest of it. But the goal is to get the whole story told. The goal
Yeah.
is to get the little girl Faye back home, and to show all the crazy and wonderful and dark things that happen inside of the dream world, because you got to be careful what you bring with you.
Yeah. That sounds that actually sounds like a great theme in the story. And one of the things I just want to get back to the color idea. I think that is a great way of telling a story, how the color changes through the emotions of the character and where they are, whether it's emotion or in the story. You know what I mean? For example, you're saying it gets more colorful when they get to the land of Nod. And which is, dreams are so much different than reality, and having her reality being gray through depression is a very interesting concept. I don't know if anybody's done stuff like that before, but I really do
Oh,
think I
it
mean, I'm sure it's been played with, but it's a nice effect, I think, and I think it'll connect with people more that way when they even in a subtle subconscious way.
right. Like her, she's got some memories in this. If you scroll down, you'll see some pages that are a little yellow. That's how she depicts remembering
Uh,
being with her father. It should be later on in the story,
I don't
but
want
there's ones where as she's as a memory, and she's going back and trying to see. Here we go.
yeah,
This is her, remembering talking to her mom when she was even smaller, and them talking about missing her dad, and it goes into some other stuff where she gets to talk to her dad and things like that. So I tried to make sure that the environment itself was speaking through her eyes to us while we're reading it.
mhm,
Um, I, my dad was a huge fan of Wizard of Oz, the movie,
okay,
and in the movie they played with that. That was probably one of the first times. And when I was doing short films and things like that and doing storyboards, I learned about some of the process. And a lot of Hollywood does all kinds of things with the colors to try to help the storytelling. Like, I didn't realize that the crow had been what they call painted, which is where the colors are subdued all over the place on purpose, especially when the crow's by himself in the
mhm,
movie. I had no idea. So that's when I was like, I think you could probably do the same with a comic book, as long as you made sure you did a lot of work on like the lighting, and as long as you were consistent with how you told the message.
mhm.
So that's kind of what I'm going for with it. I want those things to matter. I want the color of things to matter. I want the sky to look a certain way because it matters. I want everything to have a background. I want I want it to have a feeling. I want the point of it is that when I was a kid and we didn't have a whole lot of pop culture with superheroes in it, we didn't have a lot of, Star Wars was like the cream of the crop for 2 decades because
Yeah.
it was all of the pop culture. But one of those things back then in the mid 80s and is you'd see things like the Goonies. You'd see things like E.T. where the kids are the heroes,
Yeah.
where the story revolved around what the kids were going through. It was told from their point of view. Goonies works because it was told from the kids' point of view. It wouldn't have worked if there was some parent telling them to come home and that they shouldn't be out there and yelling at them and stuff like that. Uh, I wanted to feel like the never-ending story. I wanted to feel like it it's supposed to be from the kid's eyes.
Yeah.
And that's the point of messing with the color is to help people realize that this is from the little girl Faye, from her eyes, from her memories, from her experiences.
That's great. First of all, let me just say hi to. Do I have? Yeah, I'm still learning. This is Eli.
Yeah,
She was my last monster. Yes, she was. This is Eli Hernandez. She was my guest last week. She's got an awesome Kickstarter. If you haven't watched that, please go on YouTube or Twitch to watch our chat. We had a great chat, and she's got a great Kickstarter up for her stuff. And I'll be sharing more about that. I'll be sharing about your Kickstarter, which, by the way, I already posted the link in the chat for people. But I will be sharing because this is a really really fun. I don't want to call it. I don't know. Would you call it a fun story? It's there's so many different levels of meaning behind what you have here.
It's the Neverending Story is a really good example, right? That turtle's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Gamorg. I think every kid on the planet was scared of Gamorg. Okay, watching your horse get swallowed in the swamp, that sucks. You watch the Dark Crystal, seeing people have their souls drained. Look, darkness happens. It's a part of the way things are in storytelling and in fairy tales. It's there for a reason, because whenever there's darkness, it gives people a chance to rise up, to become more noble than they are, to become more than what they were when they started. And the point of our stories is to inspire. The point of heroes is to inspire. The point of Superman is so somebody to look up and want to be able to fly. You're not supposed to read it and go, oh, this character over here, he's a superhero. Oh, but he's also a Nazi. I don't want to waste my time with something that's that depressing, because for the love of God, man, the real world's got enough of that. I don't need more examples of fallen humans. I need examples of a reason for somebody to face the darkness. And so while it's fun and while it's filled with wonder, there's some scary moments.
No, and that's to me 100% fine. I like reading that stuff. It's just, I asked that question because really the world is different. You're talking about these great movies from our childhood, and they don't make stuff like that anymore. My wife and I always have that conversation about, like, when are we going to see another Goonies? We're never going to see another Goonies. We're never going to see another Never-Ending Story. I mean, sure, they may remake stuff, but we're never going to see a good original film like that where there's a fun adventure to go on.
Well, they take shots. Like, I enjoyed Skeleton Crew. It wasn't perfect, but I enjoyed it.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
so I can't comment.
Take the time to watch it when you can, because it's got some. It has definitely that feeling of adventure, and there are other examples, but they are few and far between. Oh God, what's that huge? Oh gosh darn it! Stranger Things. Sorry, Stranger Things. That's how it started off. That's what was so great about the first season. Is it dove off into some weird crap and some scary crap, but it's supposed to. but it stayed as close to possible as the kid's point of view as it could.
Mhm.
I love that feeling. I want to repeat that as much as I can, because I think as a genre, uh, if you call it that, the child hero, or whatever, I don't even know what to call it.
No,
Um,
both childhood. I think that's a great theme for it.
yeah, I want more things to inspire our kids, to let them know that they can be more than whatever degree they end up with in their pocket, that
Mhm.
they are more valuable for their choices than they are for what they earn. I want them to
Yeah.
know some of those truths, and the world's kind of made up to show them the opposite. Coming of age.
Coming
Thank
age.
you, Lash
That's
Monster. There
great.
we go.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking for.
That's a good one. Just going on what you said, and I know I mentioned this on one of my live streams. The comic I'm currently working on, that I'm doing a weekly update, and it's really to keep me um, on point, to constantly make sure I'm drawing and whatnot. But I created that story years ago, and I never really had the real plan for it. I knew kind of what the story was, and I knew I had ideas of what's going to happen. But it wasn't until I decided that the teenage daughter is going to be my main character, at least in the first story arc, because there's a family of four there, you know. So really, I can make any of the family of four um, the hero, if you will, and do different stories focusing on everyone. But I'm like, I don't think this will work unless I have one of the kids really be really stand out and somebody be the person somebody could connect with. And then I'm like, well, the brother's like a 12, 13-year old character. The daughter's 16. I think she would be going through more personal issues at that point in life, where you know puberty, all that stuff going on, that like everybody can connect with. The brother's still maybe a little too young, so I don't have a story to connect with him yet. So everything kind of clicked when I said the daughter is going to be the main character of the first story arc, you know and at least you're introduced to the rest of the family, that if I want to continue and do a side story with them, you know who they are,
Yep.
So,
But yeah, that's the point. Those stories that you love, that you're a part of, the emotions, the rest of it. I don't. I'm. Not, there's been plenty of people who have reached out to me over the years and said, "Hey, I think you'd be perfect for this project or this project." All those different examples, and I appreciate every single one of them.
mhm.
But I need to feel a certain level of connection, and I've got plenty of stories that I want to tell. And for right now, this is definitely where I'm going to be focused. The Nod books are going to get finished first. There is a Damage story that the Damage is kind of in the middle of, and it'll come back, and that one will get wrapped up. And who knows what will happen after that? But for right now, we're going to be returning onto Kickstarter, and this book is going to be active until the end of March. I believe we're going to be wrapping up on the 29th or the 30th. Um, and that's going to be the last day for the project, but it won't be the last book. We've got 5 others after it, and Kira and I will be chasing to make sure we get each one of those graded, published, and printed, and all the other challenges that come with, trying to get your books out there. So
Yeah,
we're definitely enjoying making them. That's for sure.
yeah. It's funny that you bring that up, because when you mentioned how you'd be good for this book, you'd be good for that book. When I was a kid, growing up, you create your own stories, but as you start learning, you kind of want to work for like Marvel, DC. You want to work on your heroes. When I turned 16, there was a comic book convention at my local mall, and I
Mm-hmm.
saw a group of young people, and I'm actually friends with them now, um, and they've been self-publishing. They're maybe, if they're 5 years older than me, that's a lot, you know.
Yeah.
Because I'm 49 right now, and I don't think they're 5 years older than me. I'm just saying. But I saw them put out their own book, and it was at 16 I stopped saying I don't want to draw Superman anymore. I don't want to draw these characters. I want to do what they're doing. I want to make my own stories, and I want to focus on that. And I never looked back, and I never tried to get a job with any mainstream companies or just really many comic book companies. I didn't do a lot of indie work for a lot of people. I did some,
I don't mind doing indie work.
Mhm.
I like working, like, for example, I work with Orange Cone a lot. I've been in
Mhm.
all the Cthulhu anthologies. Travis has been really helpful about keeping me included in them, and I've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I've worked with a couple of other guys that I've really enjoyed. I love
Mhm.
working with the guys in Scatter Comics, where I work with now.
Mhm.
Keith Carmona is a great example of a really supportive writer who does a really good job. He and I've got a couple projects that we kind of focus on when we can.
Mhm.
Jason Doobie and Noel, who are the two guys at the very center of Scattered, that's kind of what you just described, where Jason was out there before me, making books before me, and
Mhm.
and part of the local scenes and stuff like that. And I had a similar experience, but it was slightly different. What mine was is realizing that I can't draw a house style, that I am
Mhm.
not a house style guy, and that I don't want to be.
Yeah.
At a certain age, you grow up and you look at guys like Casada or guys like Eric Larson who are doing beautiful books.
Mhm.
And as those books are being made and they're getting popular, the corporation starts, okay, everybody, you have to draw like this.
Yeah.
And then you see guys blend themselves into that so they can work at those companies. Some of them eventually just make their own distinction and get out. But some of them, they just stay being that soulless piece of the machine,
Yeah.
and that's not really where I'm comfortable at all. The first time I picked up, like, I was really struggling trying to figure out how I could make my drawings look like. It was actually Jim Lee, who I sitting here. I'm never going to be this good. Oh my god, I'm going to have to study and all this rest of this, and I wasn't quite understanding what artistic voice was. I wasn't quite understanding how much of yourself you're supposed to put into it so that it is both emotionally rewarding and something visual people enjoy and things like that.
Mhm.
And then I picked up a copy of the first 10 issues of the Turtles. And that is absolutely not house style. And, um, seeing Kevin Eastman's work made me think, I was like, wow, I love the Turtles. I didn't even know they were a black and white comic book. I, this is a couple of years after the toys appeared, and that
Yeah.
was my introduction to them, was the toys, the cartoons.
Mhm. Yeah.
Finding out they were a comic book, I was like, oh my god, this thing is amazing. It's great. It's dark. It's violent. This is not the cartoon. And then literally like the next year we moved, and a friend of mine and I are at a comic shop, and I found James O'Barr,
Okay.
and I was like, oh God, this is so much more what I want to do, and the way I want to connect with people,
Yeah.
because that's what storytelling is you're connecting with people with these stories, like I said before. You find your best way to connect with the people, and the people who hear, see, read, participate, they're the ones who decide whether the story is epic. And that was when I realized, yeah, I'm not house style, and I'm never going to be. I'm okay with
And,
that.
and you know what though? But I think that's so much better. It's
It's more
yeah,
satisfying. It's not more
yeah.
profitable.
I have a few friends like that. I've had basically the same conversation right now, and we're just sitting there eating lunch, dinner, or whatever, and we're just talking, and they're like, "Yeah, I can't do a house style, so I'll never work for Marvel or DC, but I could get my books published here, or I could
Yeah.
self-publish, and it's fine. And I find those stories that they tell are usually a lot more entertaining than what I'm seeing, at least right now. Well, not that I'm really looking at mainstream, but once in a while I'll pick up a book, and I'm and that's why like you, I spend time on Kickstarter or Indiegogo or another crowdfunding. I look and see what people are doing. I'll go to print on demand sites, and I'll even download a digital copy of a book for $1 or $2, and check those out. And I'm finding that you know those books, and I look for a lot of sci-fi fantasy stuff like that. I know we all talk about how people from our age group, Star Wars is the biggest, probably one of the biggest influences. I gotta say, the more and more I think about it, might be Masters of the Universe was my biggest influence. And I look for I look for the science, I look for fantasy, I love that mixture of things, and when I see that, that's what I want.
No, I get that. Masters of the Universe was my world around it revolved around that from like age 5 to like age 9. The first time I like ran, and like when that cartoon was on every day, that was like you said, it was this blend. It was this amazing mix of all these things. And that's one of the trouble with a lot of the mainstream is it doesn't get to be blended. You're on one target or another to obtain one objective, one predictable objective or another. That's why I like guys like Mike Mignola, who completely turned that on its face with the strange, eerie simplicity of what he did. And his stuff was, it was showing up in the mainstream work, but it really exploded when he was doing his own thing. I don't know. It's just the more personal the story, the easier it is for me to identify with it somehow. It doesn't mean I can't on the others. I mean, Flaming Skull Demon on a flaming motorcycle. Okay, that's definitely my jam. But right now, the story that I want to tell is the story about a little girl who has to come of age and who is trying to get through all of the trouble that comes with growing up and all the darkness that comes with losing somebody in your family. I didn't have anybody to explain that to me as a kid growing up. My parents weren't great parents. My dad was my hero, but he wasn't a great parent. And trying to figure that out on your own while you're sick and while you're trying to understand a lot of different things is a challenge. And I wanted to make sure that the stories that I told kind of reflect the different lessons and parts of life that have been a part of mine, because I don't want to try to get into something that I haven't been a part of before. I'm not going to connect. It just doesn't work that way. So this story is, the reverse of that, but it's still a part of a kid trying to understand the world and trying to remember the lessons from their father. And I don't know. It's a huge piece of who I am, and it's going to go on for the 6 issues. It's going to be as like you can see on that cover. It's all color. The color will be there when the wonder is happening inside a Nod, and I'm super proud that I got to do it with my sister. I'm super proud that my daughter loves it and loves seeing it. I'm just proud that I'm even able to do it. One of the goals when I got sick was to survive long enough to see my books in print, and I've done that a few times, and I'm going to keep doing it until I can't anymore.
That's fantastic. Speaking of someone who had to deal with a lot of medical issues, it's the comics. It's setting those like targets for you that really help you.
Yeah.
Kind of beat whatever's going on. I mean, knock on wood here, I've never had cancer, but I've had a lot of other things I dealt with, and it's always, once I start drawing, I'll start feeling better.
Yeah.
Once I okay, now that I can draw, it's okay, I got to start putting a story together. And once that story is ready to go and I can start drawing, then I'm going to start feeling more and more better. Like I'll be honest, my hand, where's the camera I'm looking at? My hand shakes. It's not too bad right now, but I was after my second transplant, my hand was like this, like literally like this because of medicine. I lost my ability to draw for 8 months. I
Yeah.
went through like the worst depression. I went. It was the whole. What am I going to do? I can't draw. That's the one thing that truly makes me feel better. I teach art, so I can't teach anymore. And my only other skill is cooking. And if I can't hold a pencil, I can't hold cooking utensils, And it's like, what do I? So like everything was like ending for me, And and luckily, once they lowered the medicine, you know, I
You
was
find your way
able.
through.
Yeah,
When I got diagnosed, this little guy comes in my room. I'm sitting there. I'm in quite a bit of pain. I don't know I've got cancer yet, and they send this little guy in, and he's got like this different hand. I'm not sure how to describe it. It's kind of like he had two fingers, and he had the clipboard right here.
Mhm.
And he comes in, and he's explaining to me how sick I am, and I don't believe a word he's saying because I'm like, dude, I'm not dying. I got a stomach pain. Go back and read your notes. He goes, no, you need to understand me. You need to listen to me. You're about to fight for your life. I'm like, okay, what's going to happen? He goes, within hours, you're going to lose your vision. I was like, what? I'm not going to lose my vision. Get out of here. Whatever. Well, the little guy was right. I never saw him again because they switched me to a different doctor. But literally, like the next day, I'm sitting there and I have two of my friends are in the room and they're talking to the doctor and the room just goes black.
Jeez.
And I was like, you assholes, what the hell are you two doing? I swear to God, both of you guys have the worst sense of humor. And they're like, James, what are you talking about? Which one of you turned the lights off in the room?
Mhm.
And they're like, James, the lights aren't turned off. I was like, you bullshit. One of you is lying. Turn the lights
Wow.
back on. And that's when I realized, like, I can't see. I
Yeah.
can't see. The cancer's attacking my nerves on my vision is gone. Now, part of it came back a little while later. Um, but one of the eyes I couldn't use for like the next like 4 or 5 months. And but I couldn't draw like that. I had to go through about half of the treatment before I could draw again. And when my eyesight started coming back, when they started getting the cancer to retreat away from my brain, one of my buddies had this plan, and he didn't tell the doctors about it. He didn't. He just had this plan. I am going to bring James's sight back. I want him to draw stuff for a book I'm making. I want him to be able to draw. He showed up at my hospital room with a pink Game Boy. His plan was I was going to play Mario until I got my vision back. It worked.
That's great.
It actually retrained my eyes. The eye I couldn't see, the reason I couldn't see is it was wandering around. I had no control, and it was just doing whatever I felt like. And then by playing the video game a little bit at a time, it trained my eyes to be back in sync, and
Wow.
it actually worked. I was shocked, and so was he, and so was the doctors. But yeah, I owe my vision to Nintendo DS.
That is amazing. That is amazing. I'm shocked myself. That I mean, to even have that thought that that this will work.
But I didn't at first.
Mhm.
My hands weren't shaking, but if you're blind, you're blind.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going through, which has got some similarities to it. So I can
Mhm.
understand and identify there are things in life that all of us attach to our identity, attach to our own values. And after going through that, after going through some other horrible business with both some friends and some work issues, you learn as you get older that your identity should never be attached to what you do.
Yeah.
Your identity should never be attached to any type of perceived value, whether it's what you earn or any of the rest of that, because all of those things are in flux. Even if they don't feel like they are, they're in flux. One second you're the top of your field and your company loves you to death, and the next second You're not worth that much. We don't need to invest in you. You have a great day. Another moment, you're back on top of a totally different career. Those things are always going to be a part of it. And if your identity and who you feel and who you are is attached to them, you're going to go on one hell of a roller coaster ride as they change. And
Yeah.
not everybody should want to buy that ticket.
No, I agree. Listen, you're making a lot of great points, and you should be a motivational speaker.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Let's take a look at your Kickstarter, man. Because
wait, go back. One stop right there. I gotta mention this. Okay, this is not my first Kickstarter, but you know what? It is my first. This is the first time I've gotten a Project We Love stamp, and I am excited. I didn't even know I had it. Saturday, I think it was Saturday. Was it Sunday? Yeah, Saturday or Sunday. I realized that somebody had put the Project We Love stamp on my Kickstarter, and I had worked so hard to get that. I never have gotten it before. I am so excited. I've gotten like 4 or 5 backers since it's been up there. I know it puts you into a slightly different category for Kickstarter. You do get a little bit more views. Kickstarter doesn't help you to find everybody. It just gives a place where the people you found can come together. And I get that. I get all of it. I don't care. I'm super excited because I have the Project We Love stamp.
Well, first of all, congratulations on that. That is awesome. I like seeing that on Kickstarters too, especially those who are people who are friends of mine. Secondly, I'm so sorry. We were talking so much. I forgot to say hi to Dylan in the audience. I
Hello,
hope you're
Dylan.
still watching. So yeah, but yeah, we've already kind of talked about what the story is about. So
yeah, there's the second cover from Ryan Croboth.
Is right there.
Yeah, he definitely he did some really interesting things. He actually took his nephews and his nieces. They made drawings of monsters and stuff for dreams. He actually put them in that cover. If you look really close, above the dresser and over on the door notches and stuff.
Yeah.
They're little drawings. Those are actually the drawings from the children in his family, because he was trying to keep with that thing that this book is from the point of view of the kid. Like over there next to the closet door, it's got all face heights. He was keeping up with that theme. I didn't notice those at first, but they were really cool details that he put in there.
Yeah, this is awesome. That's then when you point it out, that's really cool to see. I don't know if I'm able to play videos. I always had an issue with StreamYard. I'm on a Mac, but let's see if I can play a video on Restream here without an issue.
Go for it.
If you guys in the audience are watching, please let us know if you hear the sound.
So it doesn't. I can't hear it come across, but what
All
this
right, so then the sound probably isn't playing for you. I hear it.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Well, this is a speed drawing of one of the rewards. This is actually a postcard that I did, and Clip Studio lets you record everything that you do. So it's like all the little steps I did to put the effects in and then to draw this image of Patches, who is in Nod, and Faye, who's not, coming together for that part.
Yeah, no, I've never actually tried the record feature in Clip Studio, but that's my go-to, program.
Software.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm looking for where my mouse is. There we go. But yeah, this is. I love your art. I gotta say, I just really love this. And it's funny. I don't know if we talked about this the last time, because I remember discussing this a little bit the last time you were on my show. And I have a sci-fi story, kind of a slightly humorous adventure story. I plan to get to hopefully by the end of this year. Written by a friend of mine. It's called Dax Photon, and it's kind of like a tribute to all, like Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers, things like that.
Pulpy goodness.
But and it's done in a very like cartoony, comedic style. But I have a bear, like a teddy bear character in there as well.
Cool.
And although he doesn't have the stitches, which I'm a little upset I didn't put on him because it looked like it would make sense to him, he's just a grumpy son of a bitch. And
Okay, Patches does have a grumpy voice.
yeah, I was gonna say it kind of reminds me of him, and it's because it's Dax's teddy bear from childhood that stayed with him, and but yeah, it makes me want to go and start drawing some Dax Photon, but I'm like, nope, I got another comic I got to finish.
Yeah,
first.
it's tough to manage those ideas.
Yeah, I love it. But yeah, no, a friend of mine who goes by another name with his comic writing, which I don't remember what it is right now. Otherwise, I'd say what it is, but I'd have to look it up. But it's really a cool story. It's a 60-page story, and we have plans to add another 30 or 40 pages to it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm trying to get to where is your Kickstarter is up, right? I'm trying to find your
it's up.
Yeah, where your rewards are.
The rewards, that right there.
Oh, are we on the? Am I passing them?
No, those are the visuals I put in there.
Rewards. I'm used to seeing them on the side here. That's why it's
right. They've made a couple changes about the rewards and to make it easier for people to get to them. But it's going to range from the digital book and then the physical books. There's other stuff on there as well. When in all the like for example, there's going to be one where it's all of my damage books and you can get the Nod books. I tried to keep it to things that were going to be about publishing as much as possible. Things are a part of it. I added things like there's stickers that are an add-on. There's a beautiful postcard, like I mentioned. I'm going to do these in series, the one you just came up with, which these are buttons. I bought all the equipment to make buttons out of the comic, so I am going to put out a set with each one of the books. And that's going to be the first one. That's one of the rewards. And I had like 5 different people send me a private message asking, James, what about the hoodie? And I was like, wait, what hoodie? I'm not doing a hoodie. Like, but you did a hoodie for Damage. I custom made a Damage with the Damage patch on the back. I did one hoodie for each one of the campaigns. And I started getting messages saying, we want a hoodie for this. And if you look up inside the rewards, there's a tier as well where it's got a custom made hoodie that I kind of did for because I was getting requested. That's the postcard. The one up above it, that's the Lucid Dreamer one. That one somebody took, and it happened quick. I was kind of shocked because it's an expensive tier. But the reason I want to point it out, a backer said, I want you to do a 4-page story about me as a kid in Nod. Because that's what it was. I was going to say, okay, I have lots of different stories for Nod. And I can put other kids in there too. And this is about stories from the kids' point of view, stories from their nightmares, their dreams. And so that one got put up, and I actually had somebody take it up on it. And if we are able to reach up to, I think it's $3,000, then I'm going to take those 4 pages, and then it's going to become a 36-page book. Wow. Instead of me just doing the original art for that one gentleman. And there's patches telling everybody thank you, and we get into where the stretch goals are. Yeah, there's going to be some poetry.
There was a cartoon when we were young. It was a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. It was called Midnight Patrol. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay. Well, in England, it's called Potsworth and Company, just in case you ever heard it that way. But it's about like 4 or 5 kids who, when they go to sleep, they end up in the dream world. and there's the Nightmare Prince is the villain of the story. It's very cartoony. You should look it up. But some of the stuff that you keep, that you say, even though it's a Hanna-Barbera kids
Well,
cartoon and stuff, it just kind of like is making me have flashbacks to the
yeah.
Midnight Patrol. And here's the thing, it was one of the ones like towards the end of the Hanna-Barbera era of making like those type of cartoons,
Before
Paw
they yeah,
Bears and all those things, Fantastic Max.
before
And
they got shut down by the government telling them to stop making violent cartoons.
yeah, even though those weren't the violent ones there. And
That's why all that stuff stopped.
yeah,
They made
I know.
Scooby Doo because the government told them to.
Yeah. Well, listen, I could do without Scooby Doo for a little while. There's been too many Scooby Doos and too many Scooby Doo knockoffs. And Hanna Barbera had a habit of, once they had a gimmick that worked, they just did it to death. And I mean, you look at all that, like even like going back to Yogi Bear, McGill Gorilla was like, oh, we got an animal character. It's going to be like this celebrity of the era, and we're just going to parody that. That's
I
it.
just listened to a documentary where they were explaining why that stuff happened and why it went from Hanna-Barbera and Filmation making these insanely creative projects,
Yeah.
and how it turned into advertising. And how it got turned into all of those. And it actually had to do with government regulations, because parent groups were coming together and complaining about the violence in the cartoons for things like, oh, goodness gracious, I have trouble remembering the name of it. Like, what's that one where they have the really dark monsters, the Zoids or whatever it was called? They were spitting boulders and...
There was a cartoon called the Zoids.
And when Hanna-Barbera was making stuff like that, it was in the early 60s. And that's when they were starting to get in trouble for this. It was when, the Comics Code was wielding its sword and all the rest of that other stuff was going on. And when it changed, they changed the rules about how the cartoons had to appear. And the way that they were able to make them and be able to still pay the studios had to do with them partnering up with other creative groups, like He-Man, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
He-Man was a thing written by DC Comics.
Mm-hmm.
And then it went from that into the Filmation stuff. All the patterns about how all these guys kind of made and got changed into these giant seasons with, 62 episodes and all that stuff that happened had to do with all those mom groups complaining about the violence. And the reason why they made Scooby-Doo is because they wanted all the all of the cartoons to go to the format of Archie Comics cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
And so they searched for new formats and made their own ones, where originally Scooby-Doo was supposed to be about a group of singers, not a group of mystery solvers. And you start seeing all these weird patterns showing up, and it makes a little bit more sense. But
that's a very interesting document. Do you know the name of it or where I can watch it?
I'll look it up in my history and send you the link. It was across like 4 or 5 different ones where they explain a whole bunch about the Transformers, about He-Man, about Filmation. The drama that surrounds everything that happened to Filmation is actually kind of long. And interesting, but I'll send them over to you so you can see it. It was fascinating, but the format, it actually changed the format, how things worked in the entire industry, and it changed how the industry for toys and everything changed. And then the reason why it all blew up were mistakes that were made at Mattel about Brave Star. And that's what made He-Man fall apart. It's what made all this other stuff happen, because of mistakes made in the marketing division. Wow. It collapsed like 2 industries just because somebody like jumped the gun. And it's an interesting story.
Yeah, no, definitely send me those links. I'd love to watch them. It's I love that type. And Filmation was one of my favorite companies. They made a lot of my favorite cartoons. even before Masters of the Universe, I was a big Black Star fan.
Black Star, yep.
Black Star. But they also did like the Star Trek cartoon and Planet of the
Mhm.
Apes and Flash Gordon, the Lone Ranger, Zorro, all
Yeah,
those.
and all of those were these American animated
Mhm.
projects that were based on stuff from the comics and all this other. It was all
Yeah,
connected,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it all coming apart had to do with what Filmation went through to try to keep their animation in America, and how they had to eventually send it off, and all these other problems that had to do with like the marketing division of the toy companies trying to sell things before the cartoon was out, which made when the cartoon was out, it just changed like the dynamics and a bunch of other rating issues. So long story, interesting story, but long one.
yeah, yeah. No, totally. I look forward to watching that. Um, so yeah, listen, you got a lot of stuff here, man. This is gonna be great. First of all, where are you at, man? Did you personally,
We hit 60% this morning. We got up
congratulations.
to 40% that first day. And over the next few days, it's been slower, as it always is on Kickstarter when you run a 30-day campaign. Um, I know things are going well. I've got a ton of people following it that are watching, and I'm liking where I'm at. I know that I'm going to go ahead and finish. I'm excited about that part. But right now we're at $1,491 out of 2,475. We're at 60%. There's still a long way to go to funding. Um, and like you said, there's a lot of good stuff in there. This is the first book. I am the way I price things and the way I set things up is really to try to get as many people involved as possible. This book is about dealing with grief and fear and wonder. I want people who have had to feel those challenges to find this. I want some little girl that still needs her teddy bear, that's still afraid of the dark, to see this. I want somebody else who's been dealing with that their whole life to see these stories and understand now that they're a parent, that what their kids are going to go through, and to help them be a part of it. I want people to find it. So the stuff is not set up so that I make a gigantic amount out of it. I know, especially with the way tariffs and everything else is going, there's going to be changes from when I set all this stuff up a couple months ago. I know that there's going to be challenges, but it's still going to be able to, where it finishes, to be able to get it out into the hands of a few people. And I'm excited by that. And I'm excited to make the next one, and I'm excited to make the one after that, and try to get it a little bit bigger each time. Um, I've tried to make sure everything on there is stuff that I can control. So as long as a ship doesn't get screwed up carrying my books from one place to the other, or anything like that, everything's going to be done and out by July. All the
Yeah,
art's finished. All the original art is pretty much finished. It really depends on how many people order a sketch card. Um, and it's really just going to come down to getting the project off to the printer as soon as everything closes, and making sure that everything's followed up with as quickly as possible.
nice.
But I
Nice.
am excited to see this one. I
Yeah.
loved Damage, Mike. I do, and I still do.
But
But
Damage is based actually on your D&D group, correct? Like you
yeah,
actually take some of the stories that you go through in D&D and turn that into the stories in Damage.
it's not like we were recording the stories when they happened. It was more like we played a game called Palladium Heroes Unlimited, which is superheroes, and I loved throwing supernatural bad guys at the superheroes. I loved throwing all kinds of weird stuff at them so they didn't, know what to expect. That's what Damage was. And so it's a lot more about the friendship between some of the characters, and a lot more about kind of how mean you can be to your friends and they still love you. That's why there's so much sarcasm in it, and
Yeah.
so much proud mom jokes. So it has a totally different feel and theme to it. And yeah, it's based a lot on those stories. I did change them to make them make more sense in the new format,
Mm.
but yeah, that is what they were about.
Yeah.
This is about bedtime stories. This is about what this little girl is going to go through as she tries to make sense of the world that took her father away.
Yeah.
And that's not an easy thing to do when you're an adult and
Yeah.
have more coping resources. Doing it when you're a kid is mystifyingly difficult.
Yeah.
Um, and she's going to see monsters and she's going to have to deal with more loss. There's different plans for the story, and it's going to be an emotional roller coaster the whole way through. And there's going to be characters who are there to help, and there's going to be characters that are going to get lost. It's not going to be just a pleasant jaunt into the dream world. There's going to be nightmares.
Yeah. Hold on. I just want to look something up. Uh, um, I, I want to get the title of something. That's why.
Go for it.
Sorry.
Like, one of the reasons why I'm excited to do this too is I also want to make sure there's things people can identify with. And everybody's had their version of a teddy bear, whether it was a teddy bear, a stuffed rabbit, or a He-Man doll, or a stuffed elephant. Everybody's got something like that they needed to help them deal with the darkness when they were a kid. When the lightning comes outside and you're trying to deal with things, everybody had something, and it varies drastically. And that was important. I wanted to make sure people understood that relationship was there and needed for the story as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, listen, it's a very meaningful story. You're talking about a lot of stuff. But another thing it reminded me of while we were just talking, that's what I wanted to look up. I don't know if you're familiar in Orlando. I mean, over in Disney World, they have in the Disney Springs area, they have a Cirque du Soleil show, right?
The
And the
last time
current
I was there was before I think Cirque du Soleil was there, but
okay,
I get you. I get your impression.
but they have one currently going on called Drawn to Life, and I'm dying to see it. When I was down there, I wanted to go the last time I was down there in November. I just didn't have time. But it's about a girl whose father passes away, and she's her dad was an animator, and she goes to his animation table to try to figure out a way to connect with her father, and she begins to animate. So there's a combination of animation and the acrobatics and all the stuff that goes on,
Well,
and
that
bringing
sounds
things
very
into
endearing.
dream worlds. And I'm dying to see it, but like your story just made me. Totally forgot that was even going on. It just popped in my head because
Yeah, that sounds
there's so
awesome.
many ways to connect
Well,
to the losses of someone. Now I haven't lost a parent or anything, I know one day I will, and it will be no, I know, and it'll be hard. Um, but I've lost friends of mine, and I know how tough that is to deal with. Like I lost a very good friend that I spoke to like literally 4 or 5 days a week, and that was a hard one. Um, so dealing with loss is always difficult, and it's just very interesting how people um, will connect with it, and the stories that people tell to help others connect and deal with things. And I think this is a good story. Not only do I think this is going to be a really good story on its own, I think once you finish all 6 issues and you can connect it, this is going to be like one of those books you might see middle school kids reading kind of like regularly, like how they do like books like Smile and stuff. I could see that. I could
yeah, I'd
totally.
like that. I'd love to find a way to let it help other people. Because, like you said, there's a lot of ways to uh, cope and connect when you lose somebody, but it doesn't feel like it when you're going through it.
Yeah.
It doesn't. We do a crap job in America about that particular topic.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like on the East Coast for certain things. That's completely true. But out here in California, dude, we do an absolute lousy job of this. I see other cultures who have rituals, whether it's the Day of the Dead or how they organize their funerals or how they honor the people that came before them, and that's completely missing in American culture.
But
There-
American culture is a mixture of all the cultures together, so it's kind of
it is, but
how.
for me, it was missing. I guess is a better way
Yeah.
of phrasing it.
Mhm.
My parents weren't connected to very much of anything. They did a great job of letting us choose our own path. That's probably where their strength was, but they also didn't do a very good job of guiding us through problems. And I would have loved to have had anything to go off of when I went through those things. So I guess that's some of my frustration speaking out when I say we do a bad job.
Yeah.
But because you're right, it is a mixture, and it's like being in a salad bar. But in my particular case, it was like being a salad bar and picking up an empty plate.
Mm.
You need to find ways to be able to connect with the people that you have in your life. More
Yeah.
importantly, and when you lose them, it's also important to be able to know how to either say goodbye or connect to them, or connect to the part of them that's still in you. There's different paths for everybody, and it was just very difficult for me to understand it. Um, it. I guess that's the best way for me to phrase it, and trying to help my daughter understand it and telling her stories about it. I guess you could look at that and like say, well, that's kind of what you're supposed to do in a week. Um, you're supposed to tell stories about them. You're supposed to talk to family. You're supposed to, dude, I've been to like, well, I don't think I've been to a wake. um, it's you have to participate in things to understand them. The, the experience of trying to figure it out when it's missing was important to me, and it definitely I went through that. And in this particular case, I just wanted to transform it into something that would help somebody else that was going through it. And that's kind of where that story came from. And I hope that it helps my daughter in the future. And I hope that anybody who sees this kind of understands where that was coming from and the importance of the story itself.
Yeah. Oh, I think I obviously I didn't realize you sent me a full version. I'm gonna read it now. I didn't get a chance to look at it, but I will read it probably this weekend and give you my opinion.
I appreciate it.
It's
Blurb
I
me, Mike. Blurb
what
me.
I
Blurb
will.
me.
I will. I know you asked for one a while, and I totally
You were
forgot.
busy, dude. It
I
happens.
feel like crap when that
No,
happens
we
because like
can't look. All of us, and when I say all of us, I mean all creators. Creators blurb each other all the time. It happens
yeah.
all over the place, and you try to get as many people to blurb as you can so that people understand what you're making. It's part of the process. All of us do it, but not everybody has time every single time. Don't feel bad about it even remotely.
No, but you could have been like, here's a little push. Did you get a chance to do this? And I would have been like, oh crap, sorry, let's do it now. And I would have. Yeah, but that's the thing. Like I've had my schedule and life has been turned upside down so much that it's like, oh, I say yes to something, I know I could do it, and then something happens to like right now with drawing this comic. I've said I'm going to do it. I hurt my shoulder on my drawing arm, right? I'm
Yeah,
like, that's not going to matter. What I break my toe. Don't know how I broke my toe, but now I got to keep my leg elevated constantly. You might have seen me moving around. That's me switching my leg position. Uh,
dude, we all of us go through all of that. Don't feel bad about it.
so it's just like it's like, oh god, like I said, and what really bothers me, I said everything publicly. Like, I'm going to keep myself accountable. I'm going to come on and do weekly live streams. And now I'm going to physical therapy where they beat the shit out of me. And the guy pressed on my neck today, and I was like, oh, I'm not doing anything for the rest of the day. Like, that's just how it went.
Dude, everybody's got their thing, man. The week I launched the Kickstarter. I almost had to dig a 12-foot deep pit in my front yard because my sewer backed up.
Oh,
and I got out of it. I got super lucky. It ended up clogging in the city line, but I spent like 3 or 4 hours for multiple days in a row trying to fix my sewer line right up till the day before the Kickstarter. And it was an exhausting week. Yeah. Weird things are going to happen, and we hold ourselves accountable the best we can, dude, but you can't stop just the way life
I know
surprises all of us.
Listen, I'm gonna go draw as soon as we end this right now. I mean, I'm not saying we're ending this second, but I'm like, yeah, as soon as I'm done, I'm gonna try to finish the layouts to the 20 pages. More than likely I won't finish them until Friday, but I'm like, hey, because I'm gonna do them in bed. I'm gonna go sit in bed, elevate my leg, and then as soon as I sit down, I'm gonna be like, this is comfortable. I think I could go to sleep right now. And yeah, I'll fall asleep with my with my pad on my lap, and that'll be it. I didn't bring him in. I was even doodling a character, like just an evil guy earlier tonight. I was like, oh, this guy, where's the camera? Looks like he could be fun, and I'm like, can I use him? Is he part of the story that I'm working on? And I'm like, probably not. So now he's got to go into a file and
yeah, he looks like the kind of bad guy that really likes the flavor of mustard and onions.
I do want to color in his hair. I was thinking white, like sideburn type of stuff, and then all black hair. And I wanted him a little white, little bit of a white goatee beard, I was thinking. So I have no clue who he is, but that's a new character for tonight.
He's a corrupt cop.
Corrupt cop. Oh, that works. That works, yeah. I don't know. We'll find out.
You get as far as you can and you enjoy your way, dude.
But that's what happens is I start working on the layouts, and then I'm like, let me just move the paper over for a moment just to get a doodle out of my head,
That's not a bad thing. That's how you fill journals.
Yeah. Anyway, let me take this out because I'm not bringing it into the studio with me. I mean, into the bedroom. Otherwise, I'm working on it.
There you go.
Anyway, we should wrap up though. It is almost 11 o'clock on me.
No problem.
I know you got 3-hour difference in.
Yeah, but I've got kids and.
That's true. I don't have that.
I have chores.
I have a cat who had surgery today, so we got
poor little guy.
Yeah, him and that his cone is not doing well. So the last time he had a cone on, it was a very it was almost like it was tied. It wasn't the clipped, like it was, and he just went under the bed and pushed, and the cone came right off. And we're like, well, that's it. We're not going to be able to take care of it. This time they put a much stronger cone on. And the first place he went when he came in was under the bed to try to get it on, and he can't. And now he's bumping into everything, and I feel terrible. And, it was great that I could do the show so I don't have 2 hours of watching him try to walk into a wall. And, but yeah, I'm probably going to go hang out with him as well. So anyway, listen, you have a fantastic story here from what I can tell. You have a great Kickstarter. I'm going to drop it again in the comments, just so it's closer to those watching now. Everybody watching, if you can, please go and back this. You got 17 days to go. Today is March 12th, in case you're watching this in the future, and of 2025, by the way. So if this is 2026, you're going to be backing another issue of this one.
Yep, we're going to run till the 29th. It's definitely a fun book. It's filled with both the wonder and the fear of the dream world. Yeah. So anybody who's ever been afraid of the dark will definitely identify with it. And I hope everybody enjoys it. I appreciate everybody who takes the time to go look.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, with that, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you for
Awesome.
coming on.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Yeah, the only thing we didn't talk about was your shirt, but I think it says it
Oh,
all.
um, I make these that are on my goodness gracious, what's that t-shirt website called? I make these. I'm not quiet about how I feel about AI, and it's more about what people use AI for. But yeah, these are up on T. I'll
Is it
look it
T
up.
Public?
Yes, these are up on T Public, and anybody who wants a fuck AI shirt with a damaged skull, they are definitely up there. It can be found. If you want, I'll send you the link so you can go check it out. Um, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of how people use AI. AI was meant to help people with things like medical diagnosis
Mm-hmm.
and finding a better way to make people's lives better. It is not supposed to be to make billionaires richer, which is the only thing it's doing right now. And it's not meant to replace human artists. That's garbage, in my opinion. But
Yeah. Listen, I don't disagree with you.
yeah,
Um, but I also just I I've seen AI in the entertainment world and how it can be used. And though I have friends who don't work now because of I understand the usage of it. And I can't say, I listen, I wouldn't use it. It's not my preference, but I'm not going to knock those who do because it
well,
is another
it's
tool.
a tool. It's a
Yeah.
tool. It's just like a
Yeah.
gun. There are people who own
Yeah.
guns that have them for the right reasons, and there are people who own guns that have them for the wrong reasons.
Exactly. So I don't want to knock things. And I'm not the type of guy to take like a middle of the road stance. It's here's I'm very opinionated, and if you've heard me talk about movies and comic books on any of my
Oh yeah,
streams, I'm a very opinionated guy. But I just have seen how AI has hurt certain people's jobs, but I've also seen how it could be used as a tool to speed
well,
up other processes. And
and that's what I mean, man. There are right ways and wrong ways to use all of our tools.
yeah, exactly. So anyway, thank you for coming on. You guys, how can they follow you? Where are you on social media?
I'm easy to find. I have a website, angrybrainartworks.com. On Instagram, I am James Burton II, and I can be found on Facebook as well. There I'm James Burton 8140, I think. Sounds right. Um, but I also have the Damaging page and Angry Brain Artworks page on Facebook as well. So I'm pretty easy guy to find.
Awesome. All right, guys. That's the show for tonight. Thank you all for watching. Please make sure you go back the Kickstarter, and I'll be back next week, possibly with another guest. I had a guest plan, but they had to reschedule. So if I don't end up with another guest, I'll be coming on and talking and drawing, and we're gonna have a lot of fun because no, I got ideas. And so I will
That's where it
see you.
starts.
Yeah, I will see you all next week. Well, actually, if you want to follow me, I haven't decided what day I'm streaming yet, mostly because of my cat. But it'll either be Saturday or Sunday. I'm gonna go hang out with him. I need to see what it is. But you'll see me. If it's on Sunday, I'll be drawing some pages. If it's on Saturday, I'll be talking about everything else. But yeah, so
I look forward to checking out both, Mike.
yeah, thank you, and don't forget next week 9 p.m. Eastern. Get in tune.